Alright guys, this is No Such Timed, and welcome to Retro Timed. And this video today, I want to talk about a legendary wrestling game from the early 90s era on the Nintendo 64. I want to talk about WCW versus NWO World Tour. I want to give my review on it and what I thought about it now, what I think about it now to back then. So let's get into looking when this game came out and the whole roster itself, and then we'll get into the game itself. So let's get into it. Alright, so here's the cover art to the game. I'm probably going to pick a copy of this up because this has a lot of nostalgia for me. I played a lot of this when I was a little kid. Um, while playing it now, I don't remember some of the buttons. Like there was a finish, like I had my special and couldn't even like do the finisher, but I still had a lot of fun playing it. And I'm gonna go back to it and play it a little bit more. So WCW vs NWO World Tour is a professional wrestling game released in 1997 for the Nintendo 64 game console. And by the way, I am drinking a Venom energy drink. And if Venom energy drink is watching this, sponsor me. I'll drink energy drinks on the camera for you. That one's good, by the way. That's mango. All right. Released at the peak of the World Championship Wrestling, dominance in the Monday Night Wars World Tour. Damn it. THQ's first foray into the Nintendo 64 wrestling scene and a semi-sequel to a lesser-known WCW versus the World for the PlayStation. Now, I don't know anything about WCW versus the World, and I might go back and check that one out. But a lot of these games you'll notice they're Nintendo branded games. So that's one of the reasons why I get into these. But as you can see, the game came out during the 1997. Um, let's check out who the roster is. By the way, if you're wondering who these are on the front cover, that is Hollywood Hulk Hogan, back when he was part of NWO. And this is the Giant, also known as the Big Show right now. He changed his name and cut his hair years after he was the Giant. And then, yeah, his name turned into the Big Show. So we all know him as the bald, like, giant character in the WWE. Um, and it was up to 4 players that used to Rumble Pack. And it was, I think it was rated T, because there was some bloodshed in it. So if he would take a weapon out, now I didn't get to do it, so you'll see this during the video, but I'm going to talk about the gameplay and all that other stuff here shortly. But during when you were fighting, if you were able to pull a weapon out of the underneath the ring or the side where the audience is sitting, you got and you hit the guy, you got some bloodshed every now and then. Of course, if you beat him to a pulp, of course. Now, let's get into the roster. Now, I'm on Wikipedia for this because they have the whole roster on here. But this was the roster back then because the WCW had a lot of, like, before the WWE formed and the roster formed, all of the guys that were in the WCW actually went over to WWE because the WCW shut down. And that's a little bit of history in professional wrestling, which I keep going off track, but yes, I know a little bit about professional wrestling. I know the history of professional wrestling from the 90s a lot, and the 90s was a great era. But let's get back to the game itself. So for the roster, you have Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero. These guys are good. So Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, the Giant, Jeff Jarrett, Hulk Hogan, Lex Luger. These are all regular names that if you're into the wrestling scene, you already know who the hell they are. So even Ultimo Dragon, Sting, Scott Steiner. So that's the world champion wrestling. And fictional ones, which these were still guys that existed in the WCW league. It's just they don't exist anymore. Some of them, oh no, they're all real wrestlers. Never mind, I mistakenly, it would have been nonfiction. All right, So you got this guy here. I can't pronounce his name. Jushin Thunder. Uh, yeah. As you can see, the list goes on. I know some of them, and I don't know all of them because unfortunately, some of them they disappeared off the face of the planet and they didn't exist after like a certain amount of years after WCW left. So, and then I think some of them tried to make a reappearance on the WWE at some point. Um, but as you can see, a lot of these wrestlers were like they were Japanese wrestlers. So this could have been before the Japanese league started. But I know you could open up characters. I didn't quite make it that far because I just wanted to do a brief discussion about this game. But these are all the characters you see throughout the game. So, and I believe Diamond Dallas Page was an unlockable. So, yeah. Besides that, I'm not going to get into the unlockable part. If you want to go and play this yourself, please do. I suggested. I had a lot of fun playing this for the short amount of time I played it. So, alright, let's go into the video game footage I took now. Alright, so now if you're wondering, I did record this on the other PC back there. So, everything I do video game related that's something older, I will run it on that PC back there. You can see the ROMs on the side. So let's get into viewing the menu screen at first. These are the selections. So you got WCW versus NWO, which is select a 5 wrestler team and head into, yeah, you just defeat everybody. The league, round robin matches with 16 people. Tournament, it's basic like wrestling kind of stuff. Yeah. Basically, you got the champion there, and then you got options. So I didn't get into the options part of it, but all right. This was one of the matches I used the Giant for. I recorded a little bit of this, but as you can see, it's basic wrestling before the wrestling games became more advanced. And as you can see, the side has the people wound up, but if you look at the graphics of it, like you can tell it's not very good. You see the side version of it. You can literally see the back of like everybody because they're paper thin. All right, so as for how moves were pretty easy. They didn't, it was B for grapple, A for punch. Running was the C-pad. Pinning was the C-pad. Rolling people over was the C-pad. Movement was with the D-pad back then on the Nintendo 64, which was, a good idea to use the D-pad because it wasn't used as much. And then you got, climbing out of the ring was the C-pad. But basically, the moveset was pretty simplified back then because this was the first experience of a 3D game, a 3D wrestling game on the Nintendo 64 back then. I forget the name of the other guy, but like the ring changes too. You'll see that in the next round with Hulk Hogan and Sting and all those guys. So like right there, it's just your average simplified wrestling game. Nothing more, nothing less. If I was to go out of the ring, I'd get counted out. If I was to go to the side, now I didn't get to do it in this, but I remember you could grab a weapon from the outside or the underneath the ring. And the thing about this game is it dealt in red corner and blue corner, very similar to a boxing match. But there were sometimes the physics didn't make sense. Like he would literally pick the Giant up. So as you can see, there were moments. So there's the selection screen for the WCW versus NWO, and there's some of the characters. I just went through and chose like a bunch. These were the champions at the time of the game, and then you had the NWO side. So yeah, surprised Eric Bischoff was in it. But so example, a lot of these guys went to the WWE later on and changed their whole entire name up. Some of them kept their actual title, like Hulk Hogan. He kept his title non-stop, like back in the '90s. So as you can see there, the ring had changed to the NWO logo, and NWO version of Hulk Hogan, like his his alternate personality is what I want to say. Now, I didn't go outside of the ring as much, but the thing that it's the normal count out for you if you go outside the ring. If you fall down, you get counted out. I forget how long the count out was, but I only went to 15, and I was trying to, when I fell out, I was trying to beat the guy up so he would stay out, and it didn't work out in my favor, of course. But then, and this is another thing that didn't make sense to me. The ropes, sometimes it didn't capture. Like right there, I had a pin. But the other time, I had a guy down in like the bottom left corner, and his hand was literally under the rope, and they didn't do a rope call. So I don't know about that. I mean, it still is the game I remember being. Nothing much has changed. But the meters at the bottom tell you when some guy is injured or hurt. And the best time to pin them is when their color is blue. See, like, or he's in red right now, so their color will like die down after a while because they're getting beat up so much. Excuse me. But yeah, this was a great game back in 1997. I played the hell out of this thing, and my cousin and I, we were huge wrestling fans, so we literally really enjoyed this. And then some other game came out and took over, and I don't think I played this much afterwards. See, like Hulk Hogan, he has a special. Now, I didn't get to see anybody special. I mean, that could have been a special right there, but I can't remember too much. I mean, Hulk Hogan had the flying elbow drop. No, Shawn Michaels had the flying elbow drop. Hulk Hogan had the leg drop. And, yeah, it pretty much is wrestling back in the day. Nothing advanced. Yeah, there's the music, you can't hear the music too much. The music was very, very 1980s-ish video game style music. There were a few songs. The second time around I played the music, I actually enjoyed this song that was playing. I don't know what it was, but if I could go back and find it, I would. But I'm sure you're wondering who my favorite wrestler is at this time, and I guess if I was to choose anybody in this roster, it'd be Sting. Sting was one of my favorites back then because he had a dark side to him. He was much like The Undertaker. But I didn't really fight with Sting too much. I wanted to just test the game out and use the biggest guy there to like beat the hell out of somebody, of course. And that's the taunting move. So you can taunt with it would have been you would have used the joystick to taunt, and that was the button setup. What else can I go over? Yeah, I didn't do any submission moves, but as you can see, the ground moveset is pretty good. So the cool thing about this game is the moveset wasn't much different from the next guy. And I don't know, I mean, I'm pretty sure the finishers were there, but the movesets weren't that much different from the other guy you were fighting. So as you can see, like, I'm sure Big Show had that in his arsenal. I mean, it looks like they put the movesets exactly as the characters are. But I did win this match. So I went on to fight, let's see. I'm going to try zooming it up, speeding up a little bit. So right here, we have where I got counted out. Started to get counted out. He knocked me off. That was intense. But then he comes out, because what I was trying to do is get him, because I'm a fan of like getting the guy to come out and disqualifying him is what I'm good at in wrestling games. I have my certain ways of doing things in these wrestling games. See, he's taunting me right now. And what I was trying to do here is trying to like kick him, but he pulled me back down. the moveset, once you get used to the moveset, you pretty much have your moves, and it's not like how the WWE games are where, like, everybody has a moveset where they get stuck into. I'm sure if I would have fought with multiple people, I'm sure they would have pulled me out of some move. The problem with the WWE games now is they have this thing where you put somebody in a move and you stay in that move. You don't get the freedom to come up and just punch somebody and knock them out of that move. And there's another wrestling game I will go over. I will show you guys in the future that I did really enjoy on top of this one, and this one came later on down the line, but that's not till the future. So. But yeah, this was one of those, like, even when you get hurt, you knew the guy was hurt. So, let me speed up and try to show you something. And there's the Big Show, putting him high up, so. So think right here, I just beat him. So when you win, you get the 3 count, and they say Giant wins, they say whoever it is wins, whoever you're using. So, this was the competition. I go on to fight Sting. But you're going to see when I'm in there fighting Sting that I'm still injured. And you can see that I'm injured because my character will be holding his ear. You'll see it for a brief second. See, right there. He's holding his ear and he's crouched down and he looks like he's hurt. So I think he was holding his ear right there, but I can't really tell because I didn't see the other side of his head. But the thing about them, when they get hurt in this game, they'll literally hold their ear, and then you'll know they're actually hurt. But, yeah, that's about it. Yeah, I really enjoyed this game, so let me get back to the big screen. Alright, guys, so, yeah, so I really enjoyed that. That, again, is called WCW versus NWO World Tour. I'm going to go to the game store in the next few days and add that in my collection because I found a copy of it for like $10 over there, and I'm just going to add it in because it's still worth having because of the nostalgia. Now, this is a game that's part of the N64 era. That's why the graphics weren't so good. I still give this game a fucking 9 out of 10 because it was still a great memory back then. And it was before its time in the video game wrestling sphere. Because back then, there weren't very many video games out, and the ones that came out, you had a blast playing them. And going back to even the Sega Saturn era, I would not give those, not Sega Saturn, but Sega in general, they have their wrestling games, but it wasn't the same. It was good for what it was, but it was more arcade style. I'm a fan of having the capability of moving around and not having the arcade style come into play. Now, when I go and review these other wrestling games, you're gonna see why I enjoy the other wrestling games better than some of the other ones I'll review, and you're gonna genuinely be like, "Wow, he's right." But WCW versus NWO World Tour is just a great all-around selection if you want a simple wrestling game with no high class action moves. You can still get your weapons, the basic wrestling game, and even if you wanted to still go back and play that, you could still change the name of the character. You don't have to call them what they are because now they're invalid, but the game was still really, really good for its time. And again, I give it a 9 out of 10 for it, and you too should go back and play WCW vs. NWO World Tour. Now, with that said, I will be reviewing other wrestling games on here. There's a couple coming up that I'm going to review because there's a few I just want to get out of the way because I feel like they just deserve a review. And these are some of my favorite games, but some not so much of my favorite games. These are still games I all grew up on and games I still remember. So, and that's the thing about this channel is I will do games I remember or games I see that I haven't played yet. And I haven't ran into a game yet that I was like, well, I haven't played that one yet. I played a lot of games growing up, and that's something you'll know about me. That's why I do these reviews. But, yeah, again, WCW versus NWO World Tour. If you like this or you liked what you saw, go ahead and play it. It's, you can get on your PC. I'm not going to tell how, but you can get it on your PC. And with that said, guys, I'm out of here. If you like what you saw, hit like, subscribe, and I'll be back another day with a different review.